Namaste. My name is Belinda Dubston, and it is wonderful you are here with me again for our weekly I Ching forecast. And this time for the week commencing the 18th of August 2025. We've tipped past the midway point of August, heading into the second half of the month. Now, we always look back. We say, what happened last week? What could we learn? What could we take away from the learning from last week? And we had Hexagram 32 duration, learning about endurance, the long term, the marathon, as opposed to the sprint. We had 3 changing lines, bringing us lots of development around the idea of going the long distance and finding a sustainable way forward and seeing the bigger long-term picture. Remember I mentioned the tortoise versus the hare. And plus, Hexagram 6, conflict. Lots of conflict. Okay, so between those 2 hexagrams, how did your week go? Were you faced with issues of trying to think about things from a short-term versus a long-term point of view? Did you find it valuable to think about what is the marathon that I'm running as opposed to what's the sprint? The bigger picture, what do I need to endure and persistently show up every single day? Where were you challenged to show up consistently every day? And where did you experience the challenge of conflict in your life last week? It was, I would say, a brutal week. I felt that conflict energy. I felt the difficulty of wading through the long-term, bigger picture issues. But it was really helpful. I found it helpful to bear in mind the bigger picture. What is the bigger picture? And I use that question so much in this past week of just, in the midst of the conflict, okay, what's the bigger picture? What's the long-term plan? Where are we headed? What do we need to do to sustain this? Okay. So hopefully that came to help you last week to work through, which no doubt with all those changing lines brought us lots of challenge. Now, we're heading into this week's forecast to look at what we need to pay attention to this week. I have to tell you, there are 4 changing lines. So the pace of change is only going to accelerate this week. All right, intense turnovers of change, things for us to deal with and pay attention to. And it's a bit of a doozy. Okay, so our first hexagram that we are working with this week is hexagram 18. Work on what has been spoiled. Oh, doesn't that sound delightful? If we look at the structure of the hexagram, the top trigram, the top 3 lines is the mountain, fixed, solid, immovable, sinking. And on the bottom, we have wind or wood, okay, the gentle penetration of gentle movement and dispersal of energy. And what we see is this gentle energy coming across this mountain, okay, this immovable object. And it talks about if we don't put enough effort in moving things forward, things lead to chaos. So this hexagram is all about the garden, okay? And in particular, finding a way of putting in the effort to turn over a new leaf. Okay, there is an energy with this hexagram that if we are willing to put in the effort to sort out what has become chaotic and in a state of disorder, okay, a state of corruption, as it were, if we are willing to put in the effort and we focus on doing that, there are blessings that come from it. Good. Okay, there's something here we're needing to sort out. We're needing to sort out the garden. And sorting out the garden is part of a new turnover, a new process ticking over. Think about a garden and its cyclical natures of turning over the soil, preparing the new cycle. There's a turnover, a turning over of a new leaf that is tied to this hexagram. But we have to get rid of the junk, okay? We have to weed the garden. So there's some aspect of our lives this week where we are tuning into the weeds. We are tuning into the garden, whether that's your taxes and your admin, whether it's a relationship where things have just been allowed to go to seed. Okay, the effort hasn't been put in every day, you're not paying attention to each other every day, or some aspect in your business life and your teams where things have been left to run their course. And now that is the obstacle in front of us because we have to sort the garden out in order to move forward. So there is heavy sweating under the midday sun this week to sort it out, clear out the garden, prepare, allow the turnover energy to come in because we're turning over the garden, we're turning over the weeds, we're churning the soil, we're preparing and revitalizing a situation that has become disorderly. Okay, and our attention this week is being tuned into where in our lives is this disorder. Okay, where have we let things go to seed, as it were? Where have we not put out the work to take care of this garden, all right? And that is what is in front of us this week. And what it really calls to us is to think about what is the most effective remedy for the chaos. Okay, so clearing up the garden is the symbol that we're working with this week, but each of us needs to think about the situation that's in front of us. What's the best, most appropriate remedy to help us deal with what's in front of us? And with these 4 changing lines, we've got 4 different remedies, strategies, 4 different approaches or facets of this turning over a new leaf, of the gardening process happening, of clearing out the old, that we are needing to pay attention to. And these changing lines, position 1, 2, 3, 4, from the bottom, up they go. Okay, so the first 4 changing lines are all changing lines. Only the 5th and the 6th, the top, are unchanging. Let us whip through what these changing lines are bringing to us. You might find one of them is relevant for you this week. Maybe all 4 different issues, different phases of an issue. Okay, be open to how the I Ching is working through you and guiding you this week. In position 1, right at the bottom, something new. Okay, the issue to be remedied is new. It's not yet serious. Okay, so it's kind of just started to bubble up, just started to show itself. It can be dealt with quite quickly. So those are those little weeds where you just need to pull them up and we can get rid of them quite quickly, as opposed to weeds with this deep root system that is now connected to everything else. And despite, as much as you chop down the line, it keeps shooting up again. No, little weeds. Okay, but what we mustn't do is think that it's not serious, so we don't need to be serious in how we deal with these weeds. We still need to apply a serious state of mind to getting rid of them, okay, or sorting out the mess, whatever it is. So although it's not a serious situation, it's a small, it does need to be addressed with a serious mindset. In position 2, this changing line speaks to remedying an issue that has come about through an issue of nourishment and care, where not enough care has been put into a situation. Now we have a situation where it's a care issue. Okay, the way we deal with a care issue is we don't go in hardcore masculine. We go in and we care from a female point of view. So the way we approach number 2's issue of remedy is with a female, balanced, open, supportive, and kind approach. So our first one is something little that needs to be just pulled out with seriousness. Our second one is an issue where not enough care and nourishment has been achieved, invested, experienced. And it's a care nourishment issue. So that might be heart issues, for example, or where we haven't cared enough about somebody, or we haven't been cared for. The way we deal with a care issue is we care. We apply the female mothering instinct. We come from a point of balance. We support, we act with kindness, and we hold the space, and we move forward in remedying that situation. In position 3, this issue speaks to where we might be overzealous in fixing something. A situation where you go and you go on such a rampage to go and clear out something that you land up throwing away things that you actually wanted to keep. We have all done that. I once experienced a situation of going and cleaning up my computer, right? And you get so caught up in cleaning and deleting files, and then you realize you've deleted something. It's actually really important, and it's gone. Okay, so that line talks about we might go on a rampage. Okay, we need to actually just pull back a little bit, be aware. There's a risk in a particular issue of going too far, being too excitable in trying to fix the situation. And it might lead to regret, okay, that we've gone too far, or we've taken that step, or we've deleted that file. But the risk of not doing enough might be greater. So although there might be regret about having been too vigorous about it, there might actually be, the bigger picture might be that it's okay. In time, we won't feel so bad about it. But there's an opportunity for us to mitigate the urge to overdo the cleanup. All right, overdo the amount of time, perhaps, that we spend cleaning up a particular issue, which means we don't have enough time then to deal with other issues that need to be cleaned up. So it might not necessarily be about going too hardcore and solving it too deeply, but how we apply our time. Where's our focus in this week on this issue? given that there's a lot of other things, lots of balls all around us that are needing our attention at the same time. In position number 4, this line speaks about there's something we really need to deal with. Okay, so there's really a challenge there that we need to sort out. And our risk is that we procrastinate, we are inept in our energy to solve it, we are not vigorous enough in tackling this thing that needs to be fixed, remedied, okay, and as a result, it takes over. So there's a warning here that there's some aspect that we are needing to sort out, all right, to think about, not necessarily fix the entire thing in this week, but to have our attention in what it is that we need to do here. There's a risk that we take an issue, it's a serious issue, and we don't do enough to work through solving it with a vigorous energy. Okay, so that's what we're needing to do. Bring that vigor. So we have a small thing to be pulled out. We have an issue of care that needs care. We have an area where we might go overboard, all right? We need to be attentive to that. And we have an area which does require us to be vigorous and energetic in dealing with the issue. Because if we don't, it overruns the whole process. The garden just goes. Okay. Now, on that note, our second hexagram, our relating hexagram, is very connected to that fourth changing line because it is hexagram 21, biting through. Okay, that is hexagram. You can see by the shape, a big open mouth with a piece of wood or an old dried piece of leather in the mouth, okay, preventing us from getting the nourishment we need. Right? It's an obstacle. And our task with this hexagram is to eliminate the obstacle with vigor. We bite, okay? We don't just, we, okay? That is what the energy of this hexagram is all about, is taking the vigorous action. So remember, changing line 4, all right? Taking vigorous action, not letting our procrastination delay taking the action, okay? Being inept, not vigorous enough. And here we have the outcome hexagram, the victory, the path to victory is this hexagram 21, biting through, being vigorous and attentive and urgent and doing, okay? And it can sometimes relate to things of a legal matter where you use the tools of justice to get what you need, if that's the tool that you need to do, be vigorous and active. So when we look at this whole picture, we see that in a way, hexagram 18, work on what has been spoiled, or the remedy, okay, is coupled beautifully with hexagram 21, biting through, which is eliminating the problem. So there's fixing and clearing out, okay? They're both different facets of similar issues playing out with each other this week. This is a week where we take action, where we get involved, where we do things, we plan, we execute, we review, we bite through, and we clear out the things that are in our way, because what's on the other side is the flow and the blessings. And until we sort out this situation, until we deal with what is in the mouth that's obstructing our movement, we cannot get there. So there are blessings if we are willing to take the action, and we're willing to clear up the garden, and we're willing to turn over a new leaf and accept that there's some areas we've been avoiding, and because we've avoided them, we are here where we are now. We can activate those blessings. But first this week, there's a hell of a lot of work to do. I'll be right there with you, doing that work, getting into the garden, turning over that new leaf, and I hope that you have a wonderful week doing so. Thank you so much for being here with me. As always, if this was valuable, a like, a thumbs up, a share would be great. And of course, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and the bell, the follow button on the podcast. And I will see you next week for our last overview for August before we get into September. So wishing you a wonderful week, and I will see you there.